Some of the people who end up in the system that perhaps we could divert out of the system pre-arrest are the kinds of people who end up with a mental health medical condition where something went wrong and they end up getting arrested instead of going to treatment. There are people who have a car accident and they're dealing with shock and they're not reacting properly because shock causes people to get afraid. They may end up being taken to the jail. There are people who were dealing with some kind of a family shock and they got drunk and then they made a mistake. Do they really need to go into the jail, or do they need to go to some place like a chill house where they can settle down and deal with the suicide of a family member or an accident that they caused or something that happened? There are many ways that we can take people out of the system, but in Whatcom County, basically the law enforcement officers that I've spoken to, they've said, I only have two choices. I either have to take them to jail if they're being unreasonable, or I have to take them to the hospital. I don't have very many other choices. So we've got a gap problem. We've got a social safety net gap problem in Whatcom County that needs to be fixed. We do not need to be putting these people who are not violent, but they're having an emotional upset, or they're having a substance abuse problem, or they're having an anger or conflict problem. We don't need to be putting them in a maximum security facility. They need to be going into a holding place that is safe, where they can be held and worked with social workers or with mentors who have been there like that, or people who can help them deal with their physical distress so that they can come from distress down to stress, down to reconciliation, and they can bring themselves back into balance. The last thing we need to do is put them into more stress and into an environment that's highly toxic and highly dangerous and scary. Scary people and dangerous people can be held in maximum security. That's what a maximum security jail's for. But people who are not dangerous, who are emotionally simply distressed and out of balance, they need to be taken to a minimum security or a holding place like a Restore a Life Center or a chill house or a wet house so that they can settle down and get the kind of help they want. It's cheaper. We get a better return on investment on our tax dollars. We stop the trauma cycle from escalating. We stop expanding the jail and justice system. We can put people back to work. We need to help people when they're in crisis, not add to it. What they need is they need de-escalation. They need interception. They need help and redirection so that they can get their emotions or their physical body back under control so that they can get back to work. The funny thing is I've started studying human emotions since I was a kid because human emotions affect the animals that I was working with. If I was fearful and I got on a horse, I got bucked off. If I was calm and had my energy together, I didn't get bucked off. I could ride stallions. I could deal with bulls. I could deal with wild animals. You can deal with men in a bar if you can hold your energy stable. From that point as a young woman, learning how to deal with fear with my own energy, I started working with human achievement and human potential when I got into business. And what I've done for the last 40 years is work with human achievement and emotional intelligence. Since in the last 10 years, my entire focus has been on understanding the destructive nature of emotions and how does our system prey upon those emotional fears and those traumas, and then how do we make money off of it? So understanding how we're making money in a predatory system that is control focused, control and contain. That's what the jail industry is about. It's controlling and containing people. It's not about rehabilitating and putting people back to work. It's not about growing our economy. It's not about growing our community. It's not about healing people. It's not about making us functional. It is about tearing us apart so that a corporation that doesn't even live in Whatcom County can make a lot of money on people. I learned after doing those 79 interviews that every single person that I talked about on the outside of the money that taxpayers spend propping up the justice system, those families will pay between $3,000 and $30,000 minimum just because they got arrested, guilty or not. And that money will accrue immediately. Recently, we had a government shutdown. Just a $500 hit on a family would take the family out of commission. You put a $3,000 to $30,000 debt on a family that's unexpected, and you prosecute them or persecute them with a a charge and investigation and all the things that happen, the word is deleterious. It's totally destructive to our society, it's destructive to families, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't keep us safer. So I like law enforcement, we need them. I like having a jail, we need it. But we also need the entire pre-arrest solutions that need to come to market. And if we pass a tax prematurely and we just focus on building a jail, we will never address all those pre-arrest conditions that we need to address if we want to stop the system. We are in a down spiral in the marketplace. We need to intercept it, and we need to intercept it here in Whatcom County right now. And I believe we can do it because we've already got 2 jails. We are so perfectly positioned. We have people across this community who are committed. We have people who know how to solve the problems. We have local businesses that would love to come in and help if they were invited. We can do cooperative marketing. We can do enterprise development. We can bring in alternative healers. There's all kinds of people here that can solve the problem, but not if we prematurely pass taxes for the purpose of building a jail that we do not need. We have never done a proper needs assessment without the predisposition or the pre-assumption that we must build a jail. What if we didn't have to? That's what I started thinking about. People want to talk to me about the fact that we have to pass a tax if we want to do mental health solutions. We have to pass a tax. If we want to solve the problem, we have to pass a tax. That's bogus. I'm a businesswoman. Do you know what? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If we simply take people out of the system ahead of time, guess what? We're not incurring debt. Yes, there's some overhead, but what if we repurpose the downtown jail? What if we cut 50% of the population out of there? You can do it 2 ways. Number 1, take all the people who are nonviolent out of jail number 1, downtown, the maximum security jail. We can put people who are nonviolent into jail number 2. In jail number 2, we can do recovery programs. We can do reentry programs. We can do diversion. We can do the LEADS programs. All the post-arrest things can happen there, but it can also be a facility that is pre-arrest, because we've got one end of the jail that is currently a crisis triage facility anyway. That end of the jail could be repurposed into a holding place where we can bring people who are having trouble. We can actually help people assess what their needs are and redirect them. When you do that, you stop the escalation of violence, you stop the escalation of cost, you stop the escalation of high cost overhead and facilities, and you redirect people back into a way that they can become taxpayers. Now think about that. When people are taxpayers, they're actually generating revenue that comes back to the county. I was talking to a councilman one time and he said, this is a corporation, we have to have money because it's growing and it gets bigger. Well, what if it didn't get bigger? And if the only way that you can make money in the county is to give fees and fines and put people in jail so that you can get more tax money, that's not healthy for the community. If you turn that equation upside down and you say, okay, what if we grow humans? What if we grow the local business and the local economy? The Business Alliance for Local Living Economy was here in Whatcom County, but it did a lot of work in teaching us about cooperatives, about sustainable business. What if we did that in the field of reconstruction of our human systems? Do you know what? The facts are out there that it's a lot better. You get a better return on investment if you do the same program outside before an arrest and outside of the prison system than if you do the same thing inside the prison system. You get a 7-to-1 return on investment if you do substance abuse treatment rather than incarceration. For every dollar you invest in substance use treatment, you get a $7 return. There's a whole different equation that we need to be talking about in Whatcom County, and if we presume that we must pass a tax to solve our problems, we will never solve the problems. I bought the story too that the jail was inhumane. That jail is inhumane because we didn't clean it. It needs disinfecting, it needs cleaning, it needs painting, it needs maintenance. And you know what? It's the sheriff's responsibility to get that maintenance done. And you can't just blow that excuse off and say, oh, operations didn't do it. Guess what? I called the operations people and I asked them, what does it take for you to go in and maintain and clean that thing and do it right? Get some air in there. He says, all I need is something called a kite. But that kite has to be written by the corrections deputies inside, and it has to be permitted through the sheriff's office. So if he doesn't get the demand, he can't fix it. And I grilled him on it, and I said, well, if he gives you a demand that you need maintenance, do you have to do it, or do you have to wait for the county, or do you have to wait for the executive? He said, no. It is 100% my responsibility as an operations director that I need to fix it, and I need to fix it immediately because those people are under our custodial care and it is my responsibility. I will not be allowed to spend money anywhere else in the county until I fix it if there's a maintenance problem. So I'll tell you what, my opinion, having gone through that facility, move the sheriff's department right out of the basement, free up 25% of the space, then go in, move all the nonviolent people out of the jail. That can cut the occupancy load, disinfect, clean it up, paint it, then let us do the pre-arrest recovery programs that are on the outside. You do that, and then let's do the needs assessment based upon what our community gaps can be filled in by the entrepreneurs, by the people in the community that have solutions. Then and only then would I be open to having a conversation about passing more taxes and building a new facility. We have a responsibility to take care of those people that are in that jail now. In fact, for 10 years, that jail has been mismanaged and people have been mistreated in there, and we have had people die inside that jail, and it's because of mismanagement. I'm not okay with that, and that's why I'm running for Whatcom County Sheriff. We can fix that problem right now, and it should have been done already.